The night sky over the border world was full of smoke and broken light. Towers once used for trade now burned in silence. Alarms echoed far away, slow and deep, like the planet itself was warning those who still lived. Ethan Cole ran through the ruined streets with his breath tight in his chest. His boots hit cracked stone and scattered metal. Behind him, sparks fell from damaged power lines like fading stars. Lyra ran beside him. She was smaller than Ethan, her movements quick and light. But fear showed in her wide eyes. Her skin carried a soft blue tone, dulled by dirt and ash. She kept looking back, toward the sounds of engines and scanning pulses. She knew those sounds well. Her people had heard them just before everything was taken. In Ethan's arms, the baby slept. The child was wrapped in a rough blanket taken from an abandoned shelter. Small fingers curled near its chest, calm despite the chaos around them. The baby did not cry. It did not move. Its chest rose and fell in a slow, steady rhythm, as if the world was not falling apart around it. That scared Ethan more than anything. They turned into a narrow alley where broken pipes ran along the walls. Steam hissed out in short bursts, hiding them for a moment. Ethan slowed his pace and pressed his back to the wall. Lyra stopped beside him, holding her breath. A patrol drone passed overhead. Its red eye scanned the street, moving back and forth. The hum of its engine filled the air. Ethan felt the vibration in his bones. His heart beat so hard he thought the machine would hear it. The baby shifted slightly. Ethan froze. The drone stopped. Its red eye tilted down, pointing toward the alley. Lyra's hand gripped Ethan's arm. Her fingers were cold. Then the baby let out a soft sound. Not a cry, not a laugh, just a gentle breath like a sigh. The drone's eye flickered. After a long second, it turned away and moved on. The sound faded into the distance. Lyra's knees nearly gave out. She leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. Ethan stayed still, waiting, counting his breaths. When he was sure they were alone, he looked down at the baby. The child slept on, peaceful. "What are you?" he whispered. Lyra opened her eyes and looked at the baby too. "He knows," she said quietly. Her voice trembled. "He always knows." They could not stay. The patrols would return, and next time there would be more. Ethan adjusted the blanket and started running again. Their destination lay beyond the city, near the old landing fields that no one used anymore. Ships were rare on this world now. Trade had died when the Empire took control, but Ethan knew of one transport left behind, hidden and forgotten. He hoped it was still there. As they ran, memories pressed into Ethan's mind. Not his own memories, but the weight of them. Years ago, he had walked clean halls and spoken calm words to powerful people. He had signed off on designs, on systems meant to bring order. That was what they told him. Order, safety, control. He did not think of burning cities then. Lyra stumbled on a piece of broken metal, and Ethan caught her before she fell. She looked up at him, fear and anger mixing in her eyes. "You said this place was safe," she said. "It was," Ethan replied. "Once." They moved through a collapsed market square where old signs still hung, written in many languages. Some belonged to Lyra's people. Seeing them made her chest ache. This world had once been shared. Humans and aliens had traded here, laughed here, lived here. Now it was empty. A distant explosion shook the ground. Dust fell from the remains of a nearby building. The baby stirred again, opening its eyes for the first time that night. Its eyes were dark, almost black, reflecting the firelight around them. It looked straight at Lyra. She stopped walking. Ethan followed her gaze. "What is it?" he asked. Lyra swallowed. "He is awake." The baby did not cry. It did not reach out. It only watched her, silent and aware. Lyra felt her breath catch. She had seen elders from her world look like that when they touched old memory stones, eyes full of things too large to speak. The baby turned its head, now looking past them, toward the open plain beyond the city. Then it closed its eyes again. Ethan did not understand what had just happened, but he felt a chill run down his spine. They reached the edge of the city as the first light of dawn touched the sky. Beyond the ruins lay open ground, flat and gray, scattered with the remains of old ships. The landing field stretched wide and quiet. No patrols were visible, but Ethan knew that could change at any moment. The transport ship lay half buried near a ridge, its hull scarred and dark. It was small, meant for cargo, not comfort. To most eyes, it looked dead. To Ethan, it looked like hope. They crossed the open ground quickly. Lyra stayed low, watching the sky. Ethan kept his eyes on the ship. Each step felt heavy. Every sound felt too loud. When they reached the hull, Ethan found the hidden panel he remembered. He pressed his hand against it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft blue light appeared. The panel slid open. Ethan let out a breath he did not know he was holding. "We're in." Inside, the air was cold and stale. The lights flickered weakly as the ship's systems slowly woke. Lyra closed the hatch behind them, sealing out the ruined world. For a moment, they just stood there. Then Lyra began to shake. Ethan sat down and pulled her close. The baby lay between them, still asleep. The ship hummed softly like it was breathing. "They will never stop," Lyra said. "They will hunt him forever." Ethan nodded. "I know." She looked at him sharply. "Then why did you help me? Why did you choose this?" Ethan stared at the floor. Images flashed in his mind. Meetings, signatures, silent rooms. He thought of worlds he had never visited, but had helped destroy. "Because I helped make this," he said, "and because this child deserves more than what I helped create." Lyra watched him for a long time. Then she looked at the baby. "He is not just a child," she said. "My people believed in something long ago, a bond, a promise. He carries it." Ethan did not ask her to explain. Part of him was afraid of the answer. The ship's console lit up fully. A warning tone sounded, sharp and urgent. Incoming signal. Ethan moved to the controls. A red icon flashed on the screen. Imperial scan detected. "They found us," Lyra said. The baby stirred again. This time it did not wake fully, but the lights in the ship dimmed, then steadied. The warning tone faded. Ethan stared at the console. The scan icon vanished. "That's not possible," he muttered. Lyra looked down at the baby, tears in her eyes. "He hides us," she whispered. Ethan powered up the engines. The ship shook, old metal protesting as it lifted from the ground. Outside, dust and debris swirled into the air. The ruined city fell away beneath them. As they rose into the sky, Ethan felt a strange mix of fear and hope. They were running. They would keep running. But something had changed. The baby slept peacefully, as if it knew the path ahead. And somewhere deep in Ethan's heart, a truth he had buried for years began to wake. The transport ship drifted through deep space with its engines set low. Stars moved slowly past the front window, cold and distant. Inside, the air felt heavy, as if the ship itself carried fear from the world they had escaped. Ethan sat at the controls, eyes fixed forward. Lyra rested on a narrow bench, holding the baby close to her chest. For a long time, no one spoke. The baby slept again, small and warm, its breathing soft and even. Every now and then, its fingers twitched, as if it were dreaming. Lyra watched those tiny movements with both love and worry. She had never known peace since the Empire came. Even now, surrounded by metal walls and darkness, her mind would not rest. Ethan finally broke the silence. "We're clear for now," he said. "No active scans. I've masked our trail as best I can." "For now," Lyra repeated quietly. Ethan nodded. He knew better than to promise safety. The Empire did not forget. It did not forgive. It followed patterns, and Ethan had helped design those patterns. That truth sat in his chest like a weight. The ship made a low sound as it adjusted course. Their destination was not a planet, but a place between routes, an old relay station, long abandoned. Refugees sometimes used it to hide, to trade, to pass news without being seen. Ethan had been there once, years ago, before everything fell apart. Lyra shifted slightly. "You have been quiet," she said. "Thinking," Ethan replied. "About what?" "About how long we can keep running." Lyra looked down at the baby. "As long as he needs." Ethan glanced back at her. "You speak like you already know where this ends." Lyra did not answer right away. She reached up and brushed her fingers gently across the baby's cheek. "My people believed children could remember things we forget," she said. "Not with words, with feeling, with instinct." Ethan frowned. "Remember what?" "The truth," Lyra said, "even when it is buried." The ship entered a field of scattered debris. Old satellites and broken panels drifted slowly, remnants of wars and failed expansions. Ethan carefully guided the ship through, hands steady. As they passed deeper into the field, the lights inside flickered. The baby's eyes opened. This time it did not just look around. Its gaze fixed on the control panel. Small lines of light moved across the screen, reflected in its dark eyes. The ship's hum changed, lowering in pitch. Ethan noticed it right away. "What's happening?" he said. Lyra followed his gaze. Her heart skipped. "He is awake again." The baby lifted one hand, fingers spreading slightly. At the same moment, the flickering lights steadied. The ship adjusted its course on its own, slipping cleanly through a narrow gap between two large pieces of wreckage. Ethan stared. "I didn't do that." The baby let out a soft sound, almost like contentment, and relaxed again. Its hand fell back to its chest. The ship cleared the debris field without another shake. Ethan sat back slowly. "That system hasn't been active in decades," he said. "It shouldn't even respond." Lyra felt a mix of fear and pride. "He listens to the old things," she said. "Things that still remember." Hours passed. The ship finally approached the relay station. It was built into a hollowed asteroid, its surface dark and scarred. Only a few lights glowed, faint and uneven. Ethan sent a coded signal, one he hoped still meant something. After a tense wait, the docking bay doors opened. Inside, the station smelled of oil and recycled air. Dim lights revealed narrow corridors and patched walls. People moved quietly, most of them tired, most of them afraid. Humans and aliens stood side by side, bound together by loss. As Ethan stepped out, a woman approached them. She was human, older, with gray hair pulled back tightly. Her eyes were sharp, missing nothing. "You're late," she said. "I didn't know if you were still here," Ethan replied. She studied him, then her gaze fell on the baby. Her expression changed. "Where did you get that child?" she asked. Lyra stiffened. Ethan stepped slightly in front of her. "He's ours." The woman's eyes narrowed. "No," she said slowly. "He is more than that." Ethan felt a chill. "You know something." The woman sighed. "I know enough to be afraid." She looked around. "Come." "Not here." They followed her into a small room filled with old screens and data drives. The door sealed behind them. The woman gestured for them to sit. "My name is Claire," she said. "I used to work with the early archives, before they were locked away." "Archives of what?" Lyra asked. Claire's eyes returned to the baby. "Of promises." The baby shifted, eyes fluttering open again. It looked at Claire, and for a brief moment her breath caught. She felt something press against her mind, not words but images, stars, hands reaching out, humans and aliens standing together. She gasped softly. Ethan noticed. "What did you see?" Claire swallowed. "The past," she said. "Or what's left of it." Lyra's voice shook. "Then you understand why they hunt him." Claire nodded slowly. The Empire erased the truth, but not completely. Some things were built too deep. This child carries access to systems older than the Empire itself. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "I helped design Imperial tracking. None of it accounts for this." "Because it wasn't meant to," Claire said. "Humans once planned to stand with others, not above them. This child is proof of that path." Alarms suddenly blared through the station. Claire stood fast. "They found us faster than I hoped." Ethan picked up the baby. Lyra stood close, her fear sharp and clear. "There is another way out," Claire said, "but it leads to places you may not want to remember." Ethan met her gaze. "I've been running from memory for a long time. I'm done." The baby began to glow faintly. A soft pulse beneath its skin, like a heartbeat made of light. Outside the room, the station shook as Imperial ships arrived, and deep within the baby, something old and patient began to wake fully. The hidden passage from the relay station led deep into the asteroid. The walls were rough and old, carved long before the Empire existed. Dim lights flickered on as Claire moved ahead, her steps fast despite her age. The alarms behind them grew louder, mixed with the distant sound of metal tearing as Imperial forces forced their way inside. Ethan carried the baby close to his chest. Each step felt heavy, not just from fear, but from a strange pull he could not explain. Lyra stayed beside him, her hand brushing his arm as if to remind herself he was real. "This place was sealed for a reason," Claire said as they moved. "It was forgotten on purpose." "By who?" Ethan asked. "By people who were afraid of what they had done," Claire replied. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Ancient machines filled the space, their surfaces smooth and dark, covered in faded symbols. Some of the symbols were human, others belonged to alien cultures long thought erased. A low hum filled the air, deep and steady like a sleeping giant breathing. Lyra stopped in her tracks, her eyes widened. "This is a memory hall," she whispered. "I thought they were only stories." The baby stirred in Ethan's arms. Its eyes opened fully now, reflecting the soft lights of the chamber. As its gaze moved across the machines, the hum grew stronger. Claire turned slowly. "It responds to him," she said, "just like the record said." Ethan swallowed. "Records of what?" Claire walked to a central platform. "Of the first pact," she said, "when humans were not rulers and aliens were not subjects, when fear had not yet won." The baby lifted its head, looking directly at the platform. A thin line of light appeared beneath its skin, pulsing gently. The machines around them began to awaken. Screens lit up, casting images into the air. Ethan felt his breath leave him. The images showed humans arriving among the stars for the first time. Not as conquerors, but as explorers. They met alien worlds with wonder, not weapons. Hands reached out. Agreements were made. Trust was built slowly, carefully. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "This is what we lost," she said. The images shifted. Fear appeared. Human leaders argued. Some spoke of danger, of control, of survival at any cost. The pact cracked. Secrets were buried. Weapons replaced words. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He saw familiar designs appear on the screens, systems he had worked on, systems meant to watch, to predict, to dominate. "I helped this happen," he said softly. Claire shook her head. "You helped continue it, but you did not start it." The baby made a small sound. The images changed again. This time they showed a hidden plan, a final promise made by those who still believed in unity. They created a living key, one that could not be erased or rewritten. A child born of human and alien blood, carrying memory in instinct, truth in silence. Lyra covered her mouth. He was never meant to be a weapon. No, Claire said. He was meant to be a reminder. The chamber shook as explosions echoed from far above. The Empire was closing in. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. They will not let this survive, Lyra said. They cannot. Ethan looked down at the baby. Its eyes met his, calm and steady. For a moment, Ethan felt something open inside his mind. Not images this time, but feeling, regret, hope, responsibility. Then we won't let them take it, he said. The baby suddenly reached out, placing its small hand against Ethan's chest. Warmth spread through him, sharp and clear. Memories flooded back, ones he had buried deep. His first day as an engineer. The pride he felt, the moment he realized what his work was truly being used for. The silence he chose instead of speaking out. He gasped, nearly falling to his knees. Lyra caught him. Ethan. I remember, he said. Things I forced myself to forget. Claire watched closely. The child is unlocking what you hid from yourself, she said. It needs you whole. Ethan steadied himself. Then I won't hide anymore. The machines responded. New pathways lit up on the floor, leading deeper into the chamber. A large structure at the far end began to open, revealing a chamber shaped like a cradle. This is where the signal begins, Claire said. But once it does, the Empire will feel it everywhere. Lyra hesitated. If we do this, there is no more running. Ethan looked at her. We were never really running, just delaying. The baby yawned softly, as if agreeing. Imperial voices echoed through the tunnels now, harsh and mechanical. Boots struck metal, weapons charged. Go, Claire said urgently. I'll hold them as long as I can. Ethan shook his head. You won't survive. Claire smiled sadly. I've been surviving on borrowed time for years. Make it count. Before either of them could respond, Claire sealed the chamber doors behind them, cutting off the sound of approaching soldiers. Ethan felt a surge of anger and gratitude mix in his chest. They stepped into the cradle chamber. The door closed and the noise of battle faded. Inside, the air felt warm and alive. The baby wriggled free from the blanket and floated gently upward, held by unseen forces. Lyra reached out instinctively, tears streaming down her face. Be careful, she whispered. Light filled the chamber. The baby's glow grew brighter, but not blinding. The machines hummed in harmony now, ancient and patient. Data streamed outward, not as commands, but as memory. Forgotten truths spread across hidden networks, reaching ships, stations, and worlds. Ethan watched in awe. He's not sending orders. No, Lyra said. He's sharing. The chamber shook again, but this time the force felt distant. The Empire was reacting, but it was already too late. The baby slowly drifted back down into Ethan's arms. The light faded, leaving the room quiet once more. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice echoed softly through the chamber. Not loud, not commanding. Human and alien tones blended together. The truth is remembered. Ethan felt tears slide down his face. He did not wipe them away. Outside the chamber, across the stars, something long buried had begun to wake, and humanity would never be able to look away again. The chamber grew quiet after the last echo faded. The machines slowed, their lights dimming as if they had shared all they could for now. Ethan held the baby close, feeling the steady warmth against his chest. Lyra stood beside him, her hands shaking, her eyes fixed on the place where the light had been strongest. Far above them, the relay station shook again. This time the sound was sharper, closer. Metal screamed. Something heavy slammed into the outer hull. "They are angry," Lyra said softly. "They felt it." Ethan nodded. "And they will blame us." The baby opened its eyes and looked up at him. For a brief moment, Ethan felt calm wash over his fear. Not safety, but certainty. Whatever came next, this path could not be undone. The floor lights shifted, forming a clear route toward a narrow exit at the back of the chamber. A low tone sounded, steady and guiding. "It wants us to move," Ethan said. Lyra glanced back toward the sealed doors where Claire had stayed behind. Pain crossed her face. "She bought us time." "Then we use it," Ethan replied. They followed the lit path into a long tunnel that sloped downward. The air grew cooler as they went deeper, and the sound of battle faded into a distant echo. The tunnel walls were smoother here, shaped with care rather than force. Symbols glowed faintly as they passed, reacting to the baby's presence. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into a wide hangar carved into the asteroid's core. An old ship rested there, larger than the transport they arrived in, its surface marked with the same blended symbols of human and alien design. Lyra stopped, staring. "This ship is real," she said. "The elders spoke of it, but I thought it was only hope turned into story." Ethan stepped closer, running his hand along the hull. "This tech is older than anything I've seen," he said. "But it's clean, purposeful." The baby made a small sound and the ship responded. Lights traced along its surface, waking systems that had slept for generations. A ramp lowered smoothly. Before they could move forward, the hangar shook violently. Alarms blared again, this time closer than before. Imperial forces had breached the inner levels. Ethan tightened his grip on the baby. "We're out of time." They ran up the ramp as blaster fire echoed behind them. Sparks flew as shots struck the hangar walls. Lyra turned once, raising a small weapon she barely knew how to use, firing blindly to slow the advance. Inside the ship, the door sealed shut. The engines began to hum, deep and strong. The ship lifted just as the hangar wall exploded inward, debris and soldiers spilling into the space they had just left. The ship tore free from the asteroid, accelerating faster than anything Ethan had ever flown. Stars stretched into lines as they jumped away. Silence followed. Lyra sank to the floor, breath shaking. Ethan leaned against a console, his legs weak. The baby rested between them, calm once more. They did not know how long they traveled. Time felt strange inside the ship, stretched and thin. Finally, the ship slowed, dropping out of its jump into a quiet region of space. Screens lit up across the cabin, showing signals from distant systems. Ships, stations, worlds. Ethan stared. "They're reacting," he said. "Not just Imperial ships, everyone." On the screens, confusion spread, arguments, debates, humans questioning orders they had followed without thought, aliens seeing proof that their memories had not been lies. Lyra felt something shift inside her. For the first time since her world fell, she felt seen. "They are listening," she said. "Some of them," Ethan replied. "Others will fight harder." As if summoned by his words, a new signal cut through the noise. An Imperial fleet, regrouping, broadcasting a clear message. The child was declared a threat to order. All forces were commanded to capture or destroy it. Lyra's hands clenched. "They will never stop." Ethan looked at her. "Then we stop running." She met his gaze, surprised. "How?" "By standing where they can't ignore us," he said. "By making this public, all of it." The baby shifted, eyes opening again. Images appeared on the screens without command. Star maps, old routes, a single world highlighted at the center. Ethan's breath caught. "That's an old human system." "Wiped from records." Lyra nodded slowly. "A place of beginnings." The ship turned on its own, setting course. When they arrived, they found a world scarred by time, but not dead. Cities lay in ruins, overgrown and quiet. Ancient towers stood like broken teeth against the sky. This place had been erased, but not destroyed. The ship landed near a wide plaza cracked by roots and stone. As they stepped outside, the air felt heavy with memory. Signals flared across the sky. Ships arrived one by one. Some bore imperial marks, others did not. Humans, aliens, watchers drawn by the truth they could no longer ignore. Ethan stood in the open, holding the baby. Lyra stood beside him, no longer hiding. Fear still lived in her chest, but it no longer ruled her. Imperial soldiers landed first, forming lines, weapons raised. Behind them, other ships hovered, waiting. A voice boomed across the plaza, cold and sharp. "Hand over the child." Ethan did not move. The baby lifted its head. A soft wave of light spread outward, gentle but firm. The ground beneath them hummed. Old systems awakened across the ruins, projecting images into the air. The past unfolded for all to see, not edited, not controlled. Humans making promises, humans breaking them, aliens trusting, aliens paying the price. Murmurs spread through the gathered forces. Some soldiers lowered their weapons, confusion clear on their faces. Others tightened their grip, anger rising. Lyra stepped forward. She had never planned to speak. Words felt small compared to loss. But now, standing on a world that remembered, she found her voice. "You taught us to fear each other," she said, her voice carrying across the plaza. "You told humans they had to rule to survive. You told us we were weak. This child proves you lied." An Imperial officer shouted an order. No one moved. Ethan felt something settle inside him. Guilt was still there, but it no longer owned him. He spoke next. "I helped build your control," he said. "I believed your fear. I won't anymore." The baby's light brightened slightly. The systems responded, broadcasting the truth far beyond the plaza, reaching homes and stations across the sector. Somewhere, lines were crossed that could not be uncrossed. The Imperial fleet hesitated, and for the first time, the Empire did not know what to do. The plaza was quiet now, though the tension hung heavy in the air. The light from the baby stretched across the cracked stones, revealing images of the past, humans and aliens working together, cities thriving, promises made and broken. The Imperial officers and soldiers could not look away. Their weapons hung in their hands, useless against something bigger than fear or order. Ethan held the baby carefully, feeling the small pulse of warmth beneath its skin. Each breath seemed to echo across the plaza like it carried not just life, but history itself. Lyra stood close, her hand brushing against Ethan's arm. She felt the fear that had followed her for years melt slightly, replaced by purpose. "They will see the truth now," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "And they can't unsee it." Across the plaza, soldiers began lowering their weapons. Some turned to one another, confused, whispering. Others stared at the projections in shock. The images showed the Empire's lies, the manipulation, and the real story of the humans who had first reached the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers, as allies, as caretakers. A young human soldier stepped forward, shaking. This changes everything," he said. A few of his comrades murmured in agreement. Alien guards looked at each other, uncertain. Centuries of fear were cracking. Lyra moved to the center of the plaza. "We are not here to fight," she said, her voice steady. "We are here to remind you who we were meant to be. Humanity is more than conquest. We are capable of unity. The child you see carries that truth, alive, not hidden, not erased." The baby's glow seemed to respond to her words, spreading wider, reaching out into the sky like a beacon. Stars reflected in its dark eyes, as if the universe itself was listening. Ethan stepped beside Lyra. He looked at the gathered soldiers and officers. I helped build your systems. I helped create the empire you follow without question. But I see now that it was never too late to choose differently. We can change. We must." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others hesitated, unsure whether to believe their eyes. More ships began arriving from nearby sectors. Humans, aliens, and hybrids, all drawn to the baby's signal. None of them came as soldiers, but as witnesses. They came to see what had been hidden. An Imperial admiral finally spoke, voice cracking. "Hand over the child. This is treason." Ethan shook his head. "You cannot take it. You cannot erase what is alive. The Empire's control ends here." Lyra raised her hand. The baby lifted its small arm as if understanding her gesture. A wave of light flowed outward from the child, touching every ship, every station, every soul nearby. The systems that had long slept in secret hummed awake. Holographic records of the past spread across the stars. Fleets froze, arguments began among officers, and whispers of rebellion ignited across sectors. The Imperial forces faltered. They had expected fear, chaos, obedience. Instead, they faced truth and memory made real. Their soldiers began to lay down arms. The baby's glow shifted, pulsing gently over those who hesitated. Even the hardest of hearts could not ignore the child's presence. Ethan turned to Lyra. "This is the moment," he said. "We can't waste it." She nodded. "We stand now, not just for us, but for everyone who has been silenced." They began to walk through the plaza. The baby cradled in Ethan's arms, glowing faintly, projecting visions of human-alien alliances, of cities alive with trade and trust, of children laughing together across species. People began to gather around them, not as enemies, but as witnesses. "Look at what we could be," Lyra said, voice clear. "Look at what we were meant to be. This is not just history, it is choice. We can choose differently." The baby stirred, opening its eyes wide, dark, and deep. For a moment, it seemed to look directly at the Empire's leaders, and then at everyone gathered. A calm certainty radiated from it, as if it knew that the past could guide the future. Imperial commanders tried to speak, tried to shout orders, but their words fell flat. The systems the baby had awakened broadcasted every hidden truth, every erased record across every network in the sector. People everywhere could see, they could not deny it. The Empire's lies were unraveling in real time. Ethan stepped forward. "We are not weak. We are human, and we are more than fear. We can rebuild. We can stand with those we once destroyed. It is not too late." Lyra held the baby higher. "The child knows the truth," she said. "And now you must see it too." The baby's glow expanded, reaching the edge of the plaza, spilling into the streets, lighting up the ruins of the old cities. Across the sector, people paused. Humans and aliens alike felt the weight of the past and the promise of what could come. Fleets lowered their weapons. Stations stopped enforcing outdated commands. Everyone listened. Everyone saw. The Admiral stepped back, face pale. "This cannot be," he whispered. "We have control." "Control is nothing without truth," Ethan said. "And truth cannot be hidden anymore." A young alien beside the Admiral stepped forward. "We believe," she said simply. Others followed. Slowly, the Empire's ranks began to fracture, not because of fear, but because the memory of what they had lost was stronger than any command. Lyra looked at Ethan. "It's working," she said. He nodded. "He is doing it. The child is doing it." The baby's small hands reached out, touching the air, touching hearts, touching memories. Visions of lost cities, erased cultures, and forgotten bonds filled the minds of everyone watching. People wept, some for grief, others for hope, but all felt the weight of choice now resting on them. Ethan knelt, holding the baby close. "We have a chance to be what we were meant to be," he said softly. "Not rulers, not conquerors, but caretakers, allies, builders of a better future." Lyra crouched beside him, resting her hand on his shoulder. "And we will not hide any more," she said. "We will remember together." The baby's glow faded slowly, settling into a gentle pulse, like a heartbeat. The plaza no longer felt empty. The ruins seemed alive with memory. People began to work together spontaneously. Humans and aliens clearing debris, sharing resources, repairing broken systems. The first signs of cooperation in decades. Ethan looked up at the sky. Distant ships, once imperial, now hovered without threat, waiting. Communications from faraway worlds poured in, messages of support, recognition, and alliance. The child had done more than survive. It had reminded everyone of who they could be. Lyra smiled for the first time in years. "We ran to survive," she said, "but now we stand to live." Ethan held the baby close. "And they will follow," he said. "They cannot ignore this, not anymore." The baby yawned, stretching tiny fingers. Its eyes met Ethan's and Lyra's, calm, certain, as if it knew the truth of its parents and the universe. It was small, but it carried the weight of the past and the promise of the future. Together, the three of them stood in the plaza. The ruined cities around them began to feel alive again. Systems hummed. Machines once silent now worked to restore balance. People across the sector turned toward hope, toward truth, toward unity. The Empire could no longer control the narrative. The past had been remembered. The future was being rewritten. Ethan whispered, "We did it." Lyra looked at him, tears in her eyes. "We just began." The baby cooed softly, reaching out to touch both of them. In its small gesture, the promise of a new era was clear. No more hiding, no more lies. Only truth, remembered and shared. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, bright and clear, a reminder that humanity and all its allies were part of something larger, something that could survive fear and oppression, something that could grow from memory, hope, and courage. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan, Lyra, and the baby smiled together, knowing that they were no longer running. They were free. The past had been revealed, and the future belonged to those brave enough to remember it. The galaxy was listening. And humanity would never forget who it was meant to be.